to a brand new video. In this video, I will be showing you how you can make your own Python IDE while using Python. So let's get started. This will be a simple IDE where you can type in Python code, you can see the output in your terminal, you can save the Python file, open Python files, and then also there will be multiple tabs so that you can edit multiple files at once. So this will be a very nice Python IDE that we are going to be building today. So let's get started and go right into the programming. First of all, we are going to be importing some libraries as always. The first library is going to be sys, so import sys, and subprocess. After we do that, we're going to be importing some functions from PyQt. So the first is going to be from the widget. So from PyQt 6.qt widgets, we're going to be importing everything because we want everything. Next, we are going to be taking it from PyQt, so PyQt 6.qtgui. So let's go into qtgui, and from that we are going to be taking qaction. So from that, let's go and import qaction. So qaction, import qaction. The next one is going to be from PyQt, so from pyqt.qtcore import qt. So these are going to be the four libraries and the functions that we are going to be using for our project. After that, we are going to be starting and we are going to be making a class. The class name is IDE and it's going to be for Q main window. Okay. The first is going to be define in itself. So inside define in itself, we're going to be super init to super it up, and then after that we are going to be setting the window title. So let me just delete all this, and first let's set the window title. So self dot set window title, and let's call it mini IDE. After that, let's resize the window that it's going to be opening it. So self.resize, and then I like 900 to 650. I think it is pretty nice. So okay. So after we resize it, what I am going to be doing is adding self.tab. So first is going to be self.tabs, and that would be qt tab widget. Self.output, output is equal to qtextedit. Self.output.set read only is true. And then after that, we are going to be needing some more self.run button. So this will be for our run button. Self.run button is equal to qpush button run. And let's continue this over here. So self.run button.click.connect self.run code. So I will show how all of these actually connect. So let me just say, these will be our tabs and it will be a tab widget. This will be our output, the terminal, and it's going to be set to only read only, so we actually won't be able to change what is in the terminal. This is for a run button, and when it's clicked, it's going to connect to this function called run code. And then after that, we are going to have to set up our layout. So our layout is going to be a QV box layout, and we are going to be adding some widgets, which is going to be the tabs, the run button, and the output. And after that, we are going to be adding a container. So our container is also a widget, and its layout is layout, and we have a central widget. So what just happened here? Here we set a window title and we resized the window. Then we made some widgets, which is going to be our tabs, our output, and our run button. Then we made a layout, which is going to be in the form of a box layout. Inside the box layout, we added these 3 widgets. We told our container to be a widget, and we told the container to have a layout of layout. And then the central widget is going to be container. So the main widget is now container. And its layout is layout, which has all of these widgets. So it's basically a container. So we made a layout over here. So we basically made a layout. So inside our window, we're going to have a big container. Imagine a big container. And inside that container, we're going to have 3 widgets. That is how it's basically going to work. So then after that, we can have self.menu and self.new tab. And this is basically telling it to run the specified functions that we have put over here. The first function that we're going to be making is called editor. And we're going to be putting in self. Now what editor basically does is, it is the editor. So first we're going to put self.tabs.currentWidget and return w if is instance w and plain text edit else none. So this basically helps us to edit. That's all, edit, like edit everything. That is why it's called editor. It just helps us edit. That I don't know how to explain more than that. Okay, so next after that, we are going to be making a define show empty state. So show empty state. Now, okay, so this we're going to be having to write some code in here. So you know how basically in Visual Studio Code you have these numerous tabs. So let me just save this right now over here. Let me save this, and let's say I have 2 tabs open. If we close both of these tabs, you can see that it basically shows this page. And we can open a tab again and continue to type our code. We are going to be making something similar to that in our IDE. So what I'm going to be doing is making widget is equal to qWidget, and our layout is the qvbox layout. Then we can make a label, and then after that, so we can type in open a file or create a new tab to start coding. Then after that, the next thing that we are going to be doing is setting the alignment. So we can just set the alignment, and then after that we can now make a button. So button is equal to qpushButton new tab and button.click.connect. So what this actually does is, over here we basically have these, but imagine this is a button. So when we click the button over here, so it will basically open a new tab that we can start coding in. So there will be basically, it will show text over here to tell us to like open a new tab. Then right on the bottom of it, there will be a basic button that we can click to open a new tab. Then after that, layout.addWidget label button, and we can set the alignment to be aligned with the center. So basically everything that we're doing, we are just aligning it with the center. And then after that, obviously we have to set the layout. So this all is basically almost exactly to what we were doing over here. Now don't worry, all of the code will be in the GitHub repository linked in the description below. And if you have any questions about the code, you can just simply ask me and I will be willing to answer your doubts in the comment section below. Okay, so actually let's continue with our code. After this, I'm going to be putting in self.tabs.addTab widget welcome and self.tabs.setCurrent widget. So what it does is at the top it adds a new tab called welcome, because if I open a new window here, you can see that it usually opens an automatic tab called welcome when you newly open Visual Studio Code. So that's what I'm trying to recreate into our own IDE. After we are done with our show empty state, we are basically going to be making some tiny functions. The first will be to open a new tab. So ed is equal to qplain text edit, self.tabs.addTab, ed and untitled, and then set the current weight. So what it does is that once this new tab, so you can see once the button is clicked, it makes a new tab, it names it untitled, and then it allows it to basically edit our tab. And for close tab, it's basically going to be, for close tab, we're going to be having self again. And inside that, I is going to be equal to self.tabs.currentIndex. If I is not equal to -1, then self.tabs.removeTab I. And if self.tabs.count is 0, then self.showEmptyState. What this is doing is it will remove the current tab once we click the button self tab. But if after this happens, if there are no more tab opens, it basically calls show empty state and tells it to do its job. Now we are going to be making our menu. Our menu meaning we're basically going to be making something that you can see on the top right, and once you click it, it will show something like this. So like a file on top, and then once you click file, you can do some of these commands that you can see over here. For that, we are going to be making a new function as always. So we are going to be making a new function, and I have made a slight error here. You can see that all of the functions are inside init. So what you can actually do is you can actually take all of these and put it outside of init. So we actually do not want this to be inside of the init function. We want it to be outside of the init function. It needs to be independent. So let's continue. So I was saying that we are going to be making our menu. So it's basically define menu self. Okay. Now, what we are going to be doing first is adding a menu bar. So m is equal to self.menubar.addMenu file. So we added a new menu called file into our menu bar made by Qt. Then we are just basically going to be adding lots of actions. So first action is going to be this. So new tab, self. So we're going to be doing self. And then after self, triggered is equal to self.newTab. Then the same we're going to be doing for close tab. Then the next thing we're going to be doing is going to be making one called open file. So let's make one over here called open. So open, and then one for save, and then one for run. So m.addAction, add action, run. And it's going to be the same thing, self, and triggered is equal to self.runCode. Now first let's make the functions that are now inside our menu. The first is open file. So this is basically simple code. What it does is that it opens a file dialog and it gets the open file name. And then after that, if our path with open path r and then our encoding is going to be UTF-8, so UTF-8 as F, we are going to be opening the code so that we can read it. Then along with that, we are going to be aligned with us to edit the code, add a new tab, and then set a current widget. So this part allows us to open the file and read it. This part allows us to edit it. And this part adds a new tab so that we can, see and over it over here. Okay, the next is going to be define save file. So let's do define save file. It's not going to be much. It's just going to be self.editor and then if not ed, so if not ed, then return. And then after that, our path and everything is equal to get salve name, save file, blah, and the same thing as before. If path, then we're just basically going to be opening it and we are going to be writing it to that file. Okay. Next is for our run code. So define run code. So ed is equal to self.editor, and if not ed, then we're going to return. After that, I am going to be adding a with open. So with open. So actually, this part also not supposed to be here. So with open temp.py w encoding is equal to UTF-8SF. What I'm going to be doing is f.write ed to plain text. And then after that, once that happens, I'm going to be making a variable called p. And it's going to be basically subprocess dot run. And we are going to be running a system executable temp.py system executable temp.py text is true and capture output is true. So now you might be asking, what are we doing over here? We are telling it to run our system executable file called temp.py, and we are telling it to capture whatever output comes when we run it from the terminal, and even if it's it's okay that if it is text. So we're basically telling it to run and capture whatever output we get from the terminal or from whatever, and whatever output we get, we are going to be showing it to the user. So after this, we can put self.output.setText, so set text of p and all of this. Okay, sorry, this is supposed to be plus. Okay, and now lastly, what we are now going to be doing is, now I'm going to be going down out of the whole thing, and app is equal to q application system.argument, w is equal to our IDE, w.show, and system.exit app execute. Now this should be able to run, so let's run this. Okay, so let's run the code, and now it says we have an error that, okay, first we have to see what line it comes from. It comes from line 97, and it says, okay, so let's go up here. We have IDE, so it's saying that it comes from self.menu. So let's go to self.menu, and it says self.new tab, and it says self.menu, self.new tab, add action, argument 1 has unexpected type string. So let's go down over there and let's actually check the code. Okay, so my fault, I've actually done an error there. It's supposed to be Q action. So everything is basically supposed to be covered in Q action, and then the code should run. So now you can see that we have the simple IDE. If I close the current tab, it basically pops up a new tab called welcome, and it says open a file or create a new tab to start coding. I can click the new tab and it will make a new file called untitled. And I can also open a new file. So let's open this file over here. You can see that the whole file has been pasted. You can even save the file to as whatever you want. And you can even run the file. And you can see when we run the file, the output comes up. Now let's actually make a new tab and let's tell it to print hello world. So print hello world. Once you type that and I run it, you can see that it shows hello world inside our terminal. If I save the file, so let's say I save the file as hello world, I can save it, and over here it will show a new file called hello world being saved. So this is how you can make your own mini IDE using Python. I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, peace